That was a nice move by Pipkins, taking it right to the rack himself. Wide open three, left wing, and it's good. Nylon, the dunk likes that, Matt.
A three from the right side, and it's good! The one, Pipkins, the man, yet again. Hello, and welcome to the Flex. I'm Matt St. Jean.
And this is Joe Howie.
And it's a victory edition of the pod. Not just any victory edition, it is a ranked road Big East victory edition. Friars win 74-70 at Creighton. What a game.
Yeah, Matt, my heart is pounding right now. I'm still shaking. I mean, if you're a Friar fan and you thought that 17-point lead was going to hold over into the second half, you're crazy. But the lead did hold over for the entire game, and that's all you need. That's all you want. That's all you need, courtesy of Mr. Nate Watson with a career-high 29 points.
Yeah, I mean, this is 2 straight years now that the Friars have gone to Omaha and had one of their guys have a career night. Last year, David Duke with 36. Tonight, 29 from Watson, getting it done on the boards too. 6 rebounds. That's not bad. We talked in the first game about how he was inefficient and how he couldn't match Creighton's physicality down low. They flipped that narrative in a hurry, and it started right from the get-go tonight.
Yeah, I mean, the first, 4-6 points were all Nate. I mean, they did not have an answer for him. Even there were some times when they had Ryan Kalkbrenner on him in the paint, and Nate looked a little uncomfortable with Kalkbrenner's length, but, I mean, uncomfortable or not, he put up 29 points. This is the best performance we've seen out of the big man in his career, period. It's a career high, but it's also a career performance. He was dominant on both ends of the floor, rebounding, imposing his will, and this is the Nate Watson that you need going forward. You need him to score 20-plus points every night.
I mean, that was just sheer dominance. Friars got out to a 23-6 lead, and if my math is right here, hold on, let me double check this. 16 of those 23 points were from either Nate Watson or Jimmy Nichols. Your 2 big men. We talked about how Watson needed to get it done and the Friars needed to get help from their forwards. Jimmy Nichols pitching in too. And anytime you could take a 23-6 lead on an opponent, you're going to take that.
Yeah, Matt, I was really pleased with the way Nichols played, especially because I think this is something you and I have touched on a lot during that 3-game skid, is that the 4 spot, the power forward, the wing, whatever you want to call it, had kind of been a revolving door. We were shuffling around a couple of different guys between Nichols, Horkler, and Gant. I think, Nichols has kind of preserved his spot there in the starting 5. He, along with Breed, Watson, and Duke, all put up double figures, 4 out of the 5 starters. Nichols had a good performance, too. I mean, I think he got a little overshadowed by Nate, which, I mean, a little. He got extremely overshadowed by Nate, but Nichols had a good game, too. So a tip of the hat to him because he stepped up in a major way, rebounding, scoring, and defending. This is something that the wing hasn't done as of recent, and you could tell the Friars used that week off to work on their paint defense.
Yeah, and paint defense wasn't perfect. Creighton still did get 40 points in the paint, but overall, the performance was a lot better down low for the Friars. A lot of those points for Creighton came when the refs started getting a little bit inconsistent. I think the refs were bad tonight, not in favor of either one team. They were just calling all kinds of ticky-tack fouls. So when that happens, you get more points in the paint because teams are more willing to go down there. You're going to get more fouls, and you're going to have softer defense. The Friars played a lot better in the paint all around, which is, I think, what we asked for. And you talk about defense, only allowed 67 points to Creighton the first time, 70 points at home tonight. This is a Creighton offense that has been putting up over 80 points a game for most of the season. And you got to give a lot of credit to the Friars for finding ways to slow them down.
Yeah, you could tell. I mean, from the get-go, this Creighton team looked uncomfortable with the way Providence was defending them. And this is a Providence defense that, was a sight for sore eyes for many fans, and I'm sure for the players themselves to see themselves playing as a unit on defense instead of staggered and discombobulated. I think David Duke and Alan Breed did a great job handling Marcus Zagorowski. I mean, with the exception of that hook shot from beyond the arc that everyone just saw. I mean, that was, man, I don't even know what to say that was.
the bank is open late in Omaha. Zagorowski with the late shot, David Duke with that late shot. I mean, there's a reason why those two guys are in the Big East Player of the Year like conversation. When they have off nights, they still do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Oh man. The Friars have been doing it against ranked teams, and I think there was a sense from me coming into this one that we were possibly a little bit too optimistic, and it was more so us kind of searching for a win, knowing that this is a game you can't lose, so we have to find a way to win. Creighton found some ways to lose, but the Friars also found ways to win. You had some late turnovers, but this was not perfect from Providence. You missed too many free throws. You turned the ball over too much. You give Creighton too many opportunities, but the defense did well. Didn't allow Creighton to do what they wanted with those opportunities, and Providence hit timely shot after timely shot, which when you build a 17-point lead, which, by the way, is the largest lead anybody has had over Creighton this season, any opponent, and they played Kansas, who's a top 10 team as well. If you build a 17-point lead at that point, it's just about keeping your distance and making sure you kill any run that your opponent brings, and Providence did that. And that's what good teams do. That's how you finish.
Matt, this game reminded me a lot of the Seton Hall game at the Dunk from last season because
Are you in my head right now, Joe? Are you in my head?
Yes, I am in your head. Real estate. I own real estate in your head. But
I think Ed Cooley might own real estate in McDermott's head out there in Omaha. But continue.
I think at this point Nate Watson owns real estate in Christian Bishop and Ryan Kalkbrenner's heads, but we'll get into that another time.
Yeah, he just set up a whole plot of land in Omaha and said, "This is my." He planted a flag in the paint out there, and now that's Friartown. There's just a little bit of Friartown out there with Nate Watson standing there.
We're getting off topic. No, but this game gave me a very similar feeling to that game against Seton Hall at the Dunk, where Providence built up a very early lead, held the opponent very stagnant in the I'll say the first 10 minutes of the first half. And that was a Seton Hall team that was ranked, what was that, 12 at the time? This is Creighton's ranked 11th, so it's not too much of a difference except on the road. And then Seton Hall chipped away too, and they were a very good team with a great player in Miles Powell, who was eventually the Big East Player of the Year. Same thing, Marcus Zagorowski, who is the front runner for Big East Player of the Year. So these are very similar games, but the key factor here is that in both of those games last season and specifically this season, Providence kept the lead, which is something that we couldn't do at Xavier. We were up 7 late, and we dropped that. At Marquette, we just got out toughed, but I think you look at that Xavier game and you look at that Creighton game, you lost late. I mean, the Creighton game, they led the entire way, and then they won on a go-ahead dunk, but you lost late. The Xavier game, you were up 7, and you lost at the buzzer again. So now we see a transition here where on the road against a powerful team in the Big East, you're learning how to win late and hold leads that are going to get you to some resume-building victories. And I think this is a huge resume builder for the Friars, especially given the 3-game skid we just had. So a very, very, very good game, big picture, and, in the short term as well.
Much needed. That Seton Hall game you're referencing, Providence led that one 34-9 at one point. So 25-point lead. Ended up only winning by 3, but it's exactly what you said. You hold the lead the entire game. I think if you look earlier this season, go back to that Davidson game. That was not a great performance from Providence, but Friars built an early lead, double digits, and held them off. Davidson came close. They came really close a number of times in the second half, but couldn't get over the hump. And that's the Friars did that again, except you're doing it on the road. You're doing it to a much better team, and I think we got to talk about it. You're doing it without Jared Bynum. He warmed up. It was a game-time decision. There was a lot of chatter right before the game about whether or not he was going to play. They ended up shutting him down, saying we're not playing him. He practiced for the first time since injuring his groin yesterday. And you had Alvin Breed stepping up. I think he that switch just flipped. He found that confidence, and he had 15 points, new career high for him.
You know what I like, too, about Allen Breed's performance tonight? 6 rebounds. That's your point guard. And this is, this is so hypocritical because on the flip side, I get mad when we lose and our guards out-rebound our bigs, but he tied our center for rebounds tonight. And I just think that's great. That's a little thing. Like, that's the hustle. That's the I'm trying to earn my spot here. And if this is him at his peak as a freshman, wait 2-3 years. Wait and see how good he will be. But tonight he was a refreshing presence in the backcourt after, we've sorely missed Bynum. And, that became prevalent, I think, at Marquette and at Xavier when we lacked that composure in the backcourt at the point guard position because, Bill Raff said it on the call, it's a little more uncomfortable in our offense when David Duke is trying to handle the ball and create shots for himself. We'll get to Duke in a little bit because not a great night for him, but when you have Allen Breed sharing the point guard minutes with Duke, there's a sense of relief. I almost felt
Yeah.
on the offensive end.
It takes the weight off his shoulders. He was able to do a lot. He got to the free throw line. He shot 8 free throws, only hit 5 of them, but still, he's drawn that contact, not afraid to go down low. 2 for 2 from beyond the arc. We saw him adding a little bit of that perimeter presence, which neither team really brought today whatsoever. Only 9 made threes combined between both teams. And like you said, the 6 rebounds. And I think it's notable when you look up and down this lineup, everybody's pitching in on the glass. Reeves, 8 rebounds, leads the team. Gant, 7 rebounds, 6 for Watson, 6 for Duke, 6 for Breed, and 3 for Nichols. That's what a complete team rebounding effort looks like. That's how all of your guys are involved in it, and they're winning matchups, which is the complete opposite of what we saw when the Friars played Creighton at home. They weren't pitching in on the glass. They weren't having everybody coming back to crash. And we want to talk about Duke. The other guard that didn't have a great night was AJ Reeves. Only 2 points, 1 of 8 from the field, didn't hit a 3-pointer, but still played 36 minutes. Why? His defense was good, and he had 8 rebounds. He did the fundamentals. He didn't hit his shots, but he did everything else right, and he stays on the floor for that reason. He's a leader, and he's finding it.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I mean, Reeves offensively in terms of scoring didn't have the best night, but what I want to talk about is late in the game when David Duke picked up that 4th foul, and you had to put Allen Breed back on the floor, who also had 4 fouls. I think Creighton was shooting free throws. You know who was composing the team? AJ Reeves. And if he's not going to score, but he's going to be a leading presence on the floor, I am completely fine with that. That's something that this team lacked last season until the final 6 games. It's something that hasn't been lacking this season, but it's very, very refreshing to see your leader, David Duke. He's vocal. He's a scoring leader by example. When he's not on the floor, it's nice to see Reeves step up. Watson's going to be a leader by example. So that, for me, it's an intangible. It doesn't go down on the stat sheet, but I like that. I like that you're composing your guys, and you're like, you know what? I'm a junior. I'm an upperclassman. I'm going to take the reins here. That is what I liked.
Yeah, and that's awesome from a guy like Reeves. And this is night and day from earlier this season. Like he found that switch that he needed to flip. We've talked about whether Bynum can be the guy and do what Lawan Pipkins did last year. Meanwhile, the guy that did it, he might have been right under our nose this entire time. If you wanted a veteran guard to step up and hit shots and make clutch plays, we were all looking at the Lawan Pipkins mold, but maybe Reeves is the guy. Finding it midway through the season, and we're around the halfway point. Depending on how many games the Friars play this year, we might be past the halfway point now. And Reeves found it. This is 5 or 6 good games in a row now for him. But let's talk about Duke. He got off to a kind of a hot start because he hit his first 3-point attempt for I think the 6th straight game now, and that was about it.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. I think defensively, Creighton was on high alert because, it's just this thing in the Big East. If you have a career night in someone else's building, they don't want to let that happen again. We've seen it with Providence and Marcus Howard. He put up a career high 52 points his sophomore season at the Dunk. And ever since then, Ed Cooley never stopped talking about it. In every single post-game presser after they played Marquette, he would talk about it. And I'm sure Greg McDermott says the same thing about David Duke to his guys. David Duke put up a career performance in our building. We were lucky to win. Don't let it happen again. And I'll say, Duke was off. His shot wasn't on tonight. It wasn't that Creighton locked him down great defensively. I don't think Marcus Zagorowski's a really good defender, or Denzel Mahoney, who guarded Duke for most of the night. I think Duke beat Mahoney on the dribble drive a couple of times, but Duke was just off tonight. And thank God that Breed stepped up, and thank God Nate Watson stepped up, because without Duke's scoring punch, the offense was a little more stagnant in the backcourt. But again, you had guys step up that normally don't step up in Allen Breed, so it made up for it.
Yeah, and that's what happens when you've got an elite, not an elite team, a good team, a team that's going to win games. Somebody steps up. And we're talking about Duke having a bad game. He still had 12 points. He was third on the team in points, still got into double figures. And in some way, I mean, he had less points than he had against Creighton the first time, but arguably he had a better shooting performance. He hit the late shot that you needed. He still had 6 rebounds, led the team with 5 assists. And we're talking about him like he was a problem in some ways. That says a lot about how good David Duke has been this year, because the expectations are that high for him.
I agree. I think you just said that perfectly. If on a bad night he's putting up 12 points, I'd love to see him on like a great career night. And we've seen him on a career night. I'd like to see him put up more than 36, though. But
we'll get it at some point. It's coming this year. It's coming, I'm telling you. Maybe at NOFA. Maybe at NOFA on Saturday.
That would be a treat. But let's not get ahead of ourselves, because there is a player that I want to talk about a little bit more. Nate Watson.
Yes. Yeah, we really... Well, one, I don't think we want to incur the wrath of Papa Watson. Got to make sure we talk about Nate enough. But you really can't talk about Nate enough with how he played tonight.
I mean, on both ends of the floor, offensively, defensively, he was dialed in. We planned for Nate Watson, and Nate Watson showed up. He is, without a doubt in my mind, the best center in the league. And that's excluding Mamu, because Mamu's not really a center. Mamu plays the two. That's right. They couldn't stop him. They had no answer for him. I will say, to give Creighton credit, they slowed him down with Kalkbrenner. But if slowing him down means that he scored 29 instead of 30, that's fine. That's completely fine by me. He was such a dominant presence in the paint on offense. I'm surprised we didn't give it to him every play.
Yeah, and I mean, Creighton just did not have an answer. Like last time, they were really, really gunning down on the post to make sure Watson was not going to get open looks. It seemed like he was getting one-on-one most of the time in the paint tonight, and when he was, I mean, there was one play where he got, I think it was the second half. It was first. He gets the ball in the post, and when he catches it, he is triple teamed. And when the play is over, he scored, and there are 2 Blue Jays on the ground under the basket.
See, that's what I love about Nate Watson as a player. Even if he's triple teamed, he's still going to go and he's going to play his game. See, if that was Mamu, or actually Mamu probably would have taken the shot too. I'll change it up. If that was Jeremiah Robinson Earl, he would have kicked it out for a 3-pointer. But Nate knows he can score in the paint, and he knows he's got the size advantage over the entire Creighton roster. And see, I'm a fan of traditional centers. I don't really like the stretch bigs. So this is so pleasing to me to see this in, especially what has become, a league that is, and league meaning the NCAA college basketball, that loves these big stretch power forward that play the 5 kind of guys, that hit 3-pointers, that play all over the floor. Just dump it down and give it to the big guy and let him score under the rim. It's simple textbook basketball, and it goes back to the old days. I love it.
And I mean, that's Big East ball right there too. I mean, I think you grow up with the legacy that is Big East basketball, the myth of Big East basketball, what it is in the college basketball ethos. And it's hard-nosed basketball. It's basketball where you got people with bloody noses throwing elbows and fights on the floor back in the 80s in Madison Square Garden. That's what you think about. So, I mean, Watson's a guy that really brings that energy in a way that I think few do in the modern Big East. It's just so much fun to watch.
There's only one thing about tonight, about Nate Watson, that I would change. I really wish he made that last free throw so I could say that he put up a 30-piece. But other than that,
I had a tweet drafted that said the last 2 times the Friars went to Omaha, they had a guy score 30 points. I had it drafted ready to hit send, and he missed both of the free throws. So maybe that's on me.
Matt, come on.
It's the tweeter jinx. It's the new announcer jinx.
But you know what? To give him credit again, he has improved his free throw shooting from last season significantly. Raph said it on the call. He practiced a lot in the offseason, and it's showing.
It's so noticeable. And that's the thing. Like, when you look at the numbers for Providence, a lot of the times you look at the raw point totals or the shot totals, and it's like, all right, I'm not entirely seeing how this team is playing the way they do. Then you go over to the free throw column and you see just how much Providence gets to the free throw line. And part of it was the officiating tonight. Again, lots of ticky-tack calls, but the Friars attempted 26 free throws. They get to the line a lot. And Duke, he hit all 6 of his. Reed and Watson, both 5 of 8. And Nicholas, 3 for 4. So that's your guards when they drive, and that's your big men down low getting hit on shots. And you're going to get hit on those shots if you're putting yourself in a good position. But that's the hallmark right there. Watson, he took 19 shots from the field, hit 12 of them, and still got to the line 8 times. That's just the offense is going through him, and it works.
That's if if Providence wants to go on one of those historic runs in the Big East where you're knocking off opponents left and right, it's got to be through Nate Watson. It's got to be through the paint because that's where you have the advantage. Duke and Reeves can do their thing beyond the arc and in the backcourt. Nate Watson has to be the focal point of your offense, and then all the other pieces will fall into place. And I think that's what happened tonight. And now listen, tonight wasn't perfect by any stretch of the word because I think you and I were both sweating those final minutes there. There were what could have been some costly turnovers by guys who have been there. I think everyone knows what we're talking about, but
yes,
there's some late game composure issues with this team that I think need to be worked on. I think late game inbounding. I mean, Greg Gant almost turned it over by throwing it up the court, almost half court to Nate Watson when you had Duke and Breed trying to get open. I understand that you have to get it in quickly, but patience. Just be patient. Don't rush.
Gant had 2 turnovers in the game, which is not that many, but neither of them was good. One of them was you're in their offensive set and he gets the ball ripped away from him, and the other one's him losing the ball on the inbounds with under a minute to go. Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't by any stretch of the means a bad game for Gant because I think rebounding was a plus for him. 7 rebounds. That was a really dominant board performance for a guy who is supposed to get rebounds. But in terms of just, I guess I'm just going to call it composure issues. I think staying composed under pressure is something that Gant needs to work on because, like, you could see that even though it wasn't at the end of the game, he had the ball. I think it was like the elbow right there when he got it stripped from him. He didn't know what to do because the play wasn't working. Like, I think Duke was about to come and reset, but Gant was moving the ball around so much that he lost it. And then late in the game, you're inbounding to Gant, and he doesn't bring up his second hand to grab the ball. So I think it's just those tiny things.
I will say he makes up for it. After he lost the ball in that turnover, you go down the other end, he gets a block and then tips the ball out of bounds on the next inbound. Like he gets it done at both ends. He's volatile, as younger players are. And when you have other guys step up, then it's all right. I want to take a second and look into the future because we talked before about whether or not the sky is falling in Frytown. What do the Friars need to do? All right, you split with Creighton. You got that win against them. Let's take a look at the Big East standings. Right at the top, you got Villanova. Friars still play them twice. You're going to get them later this week, and you still get them at home. That's the important part. You haven't played your home game against Villanova. Creighton is second. You already split with them. Seton Hall's below them. You already beat them, and you have not played them at home yet. UConn, haven't played them yet. You still get your home game against them. Xavier's ahead of you. You still get your home game against them. Marquette's tied with you right now. You still get your home game against them. The Friars are going to have a home game against every single team that's ahead of them in the standings right now for the rest of the season. So that's opportunities. There's so many. And that means, if you want to look at being able to beat every team in the Big East, Friars have a real good shot at it right now. You got a chance to, bare minimum, split with everybody else that's above you. And now when you look at this week, you go to Villanova, you're playing with house money. You didn't expect to get a win this week with the 2 road games and the way the schedule worked out. You already got one. If you go and you beat Villanova, fantastic. We're over the moon. If you lose to them, nobody cares. You pick it up and you go play the next game. You already got the win you needed. So, and if Bynum was almost ready to go tonight, that's a decent shot he plays Saturday. Friars now going to go into this game healthier, with confidence and kind of a nothing to lose attitude, that's a very, very dangerous combination for anybody to play against.
Yeah. I mean, I think I have to do some personal cleanup duty on my overreaction to the loss last week at Marquette because I was definitely in that sky is falling category. What worried me is that we were on a downward spiral with a quick turnaround to another game, and Georgetown essentially was a trap game between Marquette and Creighton. I was worried that we were on a downward spiral and that Creighton was going to sweep us. And I've said this probably 100 times this season. You want to sweep, you don't want to get swept.
Mm-hmm.
And what could have been the first team that would sweep us this season in Creighton, we avoided and we split with them. And personally, I think Creighton is the best team in the conference right now. Villanova snuck away from Seton Hall last night, and I get it, they're at the top because they're undefeated, but they've only played 4 conference games. Keep in mind, they were off for just a few days short of a full month. So I get it, statistically they are leading the league, but I think Creighton is the best team in the conference.
Well, I mean, let's see how Villanova bounces back. They're a good team because Creighton has its weaknesses, and Villanova has some good wins. I mean, they're going to be neck and neck, but it's just, I mean, you look at the schedule. If the Friars win the rest of their home games and win road games against the teams that are worse than them, so that's your games at Georgetown and at St. John's, then you're only losing 2 more games this season. That's the way the schedule looks right now. You're only losing the game at Villanova next week and the game at UConn. And if you do that, you will finish the season 14-6 in Big East play. I mean, I'm happy with that if that's how it goes.
I would be happy with that, but that is a very long way down the line, so I don't want to get too in over my head right now. I want to enjoy tonight's win, and then we'll get back and start prepping for our pregame podcast for Villanova tomorrow. But you're right. There's a lot of opportunity. That's what's so great about this league is you play everybody twice. I still think there were some mistakes that were made tonight that we do need to clean up. It wasn't a perfect game. It was a very good game. If you didn't have 30 points from Nate Watson, I don't know if you win this game. So I think something that we did extraordinarily well tonight was exploit our strengths. And I think we need to do that going forward. And our strengths, Nate Watson.
Yeah.
Laying in the paint and using our length. Because Jimmy Nichols, he didn't put up 30 points, but he had a good game. And he only played 20 minutes. If you get him north of 25 minutes, he could be another 15-point a game person for you. So I think going forward through conference play, we have to start playing to our strengths, playing to our abilities, and we need to use this game to recognize our weaknesses. Like Duke, if he's having a bad game, who's going to pick up for him? Obviously, it was Allen Breed tonight. Weakness made up by a strength.
And you know what? This makes me really optimistic about it too. If Breed found his confidence and he can be this kind of a guy, not 15 points a game, but if he can give you 7 points here or there, he's your new Malik White. He's your guy where you're playing Bynum and Duke as your 1 and your 2, and if one of them's having an off night, Breed comes in and is able to play fill minutes. Or if you want to go smaller, you can go Bynum, Breed, Duke, Reeves, Watson. We saw them go basically run that tonight, except with Goodine for that last sequence at the end of the first half. So Cooley's clearly not afraid to go small if they have to at times. You can afford to go small when Duke and Reeves would be your 3 and your 4, and Watson's your center. You can go small when that's the case. If Breed and Nichols give you this off the bench, or Nichols isn't off the bench, but if Breed and Nichols can give you that as your 5th and your 6th men, you're in really good shape.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't be surprised if Jared Bynum doesn't make his way back into the starting rotation until the latter half of conference play. I mean, with the way Breed played tonight, given his performance the past couple games, I mean, something got into him because he didn't play great at Xavier and he didn't play well at Marquette either. But tonight it was like a completely different player. So whatever they did in that week off for his confidence, keep it going, because if Bynum is still nursing his groin, I am completely fine with Allen Bree starting at the 1. Completely fine with it.
And you can let him split duties, see what comes of it. I mean, there's a lot to be happy about. I will add, we're going to look outside the Big East for a second, but not outside of the Ocean State for some other good news for Friars fans tonight. Obviously, Friars built a 17-point lead and held it against Creighton. Unfortunately, it's a really sad story here. Unfortunately, our little brother URI, they had a 17-point lead against Duquesne. They were not able to hold it. So,
dear.
If we can have a moment of silence for our little brother in Kingston.
Poor URI. You know, what's funny about URI too is they're gonna go home and they're gonna start tweeting, "Oh, Providence played Fairleigh Dickinson instead of us." That's how they react to losses. Is they immediately go back to that.
Because we schedule competitive opponents. That's why we scheduled Fairleigh Dickinson and not URI.
If anything, we were doing them a favor by not playing them.
I love watching URI lose. Fats Russell and I forget who the other guy is. One of the other guys in their backcourt only had 3 total baskets over like the last 30 minutes of the game.
No, but he's the best player in Rhode Island, Matt. Haven't you seen haven't you seen anyone that goes to URI and has a cell phone? Fats Russell's the best guard in Rhode Island.
Oh man. Thank you, URI, for being an endless source of comedy. All right, I think this is a good spot to wrap up. We're going to be back with another show to pregame Providence at Villanova. That game, really looking forward to that after this one. Again, like I said, Friars will be playing with house money. They got the win here. You go to Creighton, to Omaha. You win, beating the number 11 Blue Jays. Take a look at the stats one more time. Nate Watson led all scorers with 29 points. David Duke led the Friars with 5 assists. AJ Reeves led the Friars with 8 rebounds. You had Duke with 12 points, Nichols with 10, and Breed with 15. For Creighton, Damian Jefferson led them with 26. Zagorowski had 17. Bishop had 12. They had a whole bunch of guys with 4 rebounds. Kalkbrenner had 5 rebounds. He led them. And Ballack and Zagorowski both had 3 assists. So those are your stat leaders. Friars take this one 74-70, are now 8-6 on the season, 4-4 in conference play. Any last thoughts, Joe?
A great win, but let's keep in mind this isn't the Big East Championship. There's still a lot of work left to be done, a lot of great teams left to play, so we'll enjoy it tonight. I'll probably enjoy it tomorrow too, but then it's back to work. We got another powerful team to play this weekend.
Back to work. That's the attitude here. Just keep on trucking through Big East play. Friars got to keep it going. Again, it'll be Saturday. I believe the game is at 2:30. Keep a lookout for our pregame show, and make sure you know when that comes out by following us anywhere. You can follow us on Twitter at The Flex Hoops. Follow either of our accounts at Joe Howie, at Matt St. Dream. You can follow us wherever you're listening to this, Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube. Make sure that you are subscribed so that you can get the newest content. We're putting content out all the time. We're getting really into the Big East stuff now. So make sure you're there so you can get every single one of our shows and you're up to date with everything you need to know about the Friars. But that's going to do it for us tonight. Thank you for listening.
Feed Nate Watson. Go Friars.